No, I can't be locked in here with you." The steel door slammed shut like a death sentence, and Maya knew this wasn't just another business meeting gone wrong. She'd survived 6 months working for Jin Park, Seoul's most feared mafia boss, by keeping her distance and her composure. But now, trapped in this soundproof room with him, she could feel something shifting. His breathing changed the moment her shoulder brushed against his. His hands, always so controlled, were trembling. And when she asked the question she'd been holding back for months, something inside him finally broke open. Jin Park didn't just run Seoul's underworld, he owned it. Every shipment that moved through the ports, every alliance between families, every whisper in the shadows belonged to him. At 34 years old, he'd perfected the art of being untouchable. 3 generations of Park men had built this empire, but Jin had turned it into something legendary. Cold, ruthless, unbreakable. But for 5 years, since the explosion that nearly killed him, Jin had been walking through life like a ghost. The car bomb had taken his driver, his second-in-command, and his fiancée. But it had stolen something else, too. Something doctors couldn't name and medications couldn't fix. He was alive but not living. Functional but hollow. A king who'd forgotten how to feel anything at all. Until her. Maya Okonkwo had walked into his office 6 months ago with a resume that impressed him, a backbone that surprised him, and a presence that jolted something awake inside him for the first time in half a decade. She wore a white blouse that day, fitted just enough to show her curves, and a pencil skirt that made his supposedly dead libido stir with interest. Her dark skin glowed under his office lights, and her eyes held a challenge that said she knew exactly who he was and refused to be intimidated. "Mr. Park, I'm here for the executive assistant position," she'd said, her voice smooth and confident. Jin had actually stared. Something dormant in his chest flickered to life. Heat pooled low in his stomach, and for the first time since that explosion ripped his life apart, he felt the pull of genuine desire. He hired her immediately. Not just because he wanted her, though God knows he did, but because after 5 years of feeling absolutely nothing, she made him feel something. And Jin Park didn't ignore anomalies. He studied them. Within weeks, Maya proved herself indispensable. Sharp mind, sharper wit, completely fearless when it came to standing up to him. She organized his legitimate businesses, kept his secrets, and moved between his legal operations and illegal ones with a discretion that impressed even Minho, his most trusted lieutenant. But what really got to Jin was how she looked at him. Not with fear or hunger or calculation like other women. Maya looked at him like he was a particularly stubborn puzzle she was determined to solve. Like he was just her boss, nothing more and nothing less. It drove him absolutely crazy. The first month he tested her boundaries. Impossible deadlines at 3 a.m, contradictory orders, meetings that lasted until dawn. She handled everything with calm efficiency and increasingly sarcastic commentary. "Mr. Park, if you want to torture someone, you literally have a basement for that. Stop using me as your stress relief." He'd almost smiled. Almost. The second month, he caught himself watching her. The way she moved through his office, hips swaying naturally in those professional skirts that couldn't hide her curves. The way she bit her lip when she was concentrating. The way her laugh, rare but genuine, made something ache in his chest. By the 3rd month, Jin realized he was obsessed. He memorized how she took her coffee, noticed whether she wore her hair in braids or a high bun, found excuses to call her into his office just to be near her, felt genuine rage when his business partner let his eyes linger on her too long. By month 6, Jin had accepted a terrifying truth. Maya Okonkwo had done what 5 years of doctors, therapy, and medications couldn't. She'd made him want again, feel again, need again. And that scared him more than any enemy ever had. That particular morning, she'd worn a deep burgundy dress that clung to every dangerous curve. Jin was reviewing shipping routes when she walked in, and every coherent thought evaporated from his mind. The dress had long sleeves and a modest neckline, completely professional, but it hugged her waist and hips in a way that made him forget how to breathe properly. "Mr. Park, are you even listening?" Maya's voice cut through his thoughts like a blade. Jin blinked, forcing his gaze up to her face. She was frowning slightly, tablet in hand, looking at him with those expressive dark eyes that haunted his dreams. "The Hong Kong shipment," he said smoothly, though he hadn't heard a single word. "Continue." Her eyes narrowed. She always knew when his attention wandered. "As I was saying, Mr. Lee's team wants to meet tonight. Warehouse District, Building 17. They're demanding complete privacy for the exchange." Jin's jaw tightened. Lee was a snake, but a useful one. He handled distribution for several operations, legitimate imports with occasionally illegal contents. Time? 8 p.m. He specifically requested no more than 2 people from our side. Maya scrolled through her notes. "My instincts say he's nervous about something." "Your instincts are usually right." Jin stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "We'll both go. I'm your secretary, not your bodyguard." But she was already adjusting his schedule, making notes. "You're whatever I say you are." The words came out rougher than he intended, edged with a possessiveness he had no right to feel. Her eyes flashed with challenge, not fear. God, he wanted to kiss that defiant mouth until she forgot how to argue. Instead, he looked away, throat tight. 8 p.m. Wear something you can move in. Comfortable shoes. Planning on running from something, Mr. Park? Planning on being prepared for anything. He met her gaze again, letting her see a fraction of his concern. "I don't trust Lee. Haven't for weeks." Something in her expression softened. "Then why meet with him at all?" "Because keeping enemies close is better than letting them plot from a distance." He moved toward the window, hands in his pockets. "And if he's planning betrayal, I'd rather handle it on my terms." Maya was quiet for a moment. "Then I'll bring the gun you gave me. The small one." Jin's chest constricted. He'd given her that weapon 3 months ago when a rival family started making threats. She'd argued at first, insisted she wasn't part of his underworld business. But he'd been unmovable. Anyone close to him was a target. "Good," he said quietly. "But if anything happens, you stay behind me." "Jin?" She caught herself reverting to formality. "Mr. Park, I can handle myself." "I know you can." He turned to face her fully. "But I'd prefer not to test that theory with your life on the line." Their eyes met and held. Something electric passed between them. Something that made Maya's breath catch and Jin's hands clench with the need to touch her, to pull her close and kiss her until they both forgot about warehouses and danger, and all the reasons he shouldn't want his secretary this desperately. "I'll see you at 7:30, Maya said finally, her voice slightly breathless. "For the drive." 7:30? Jin confirmed, watching her leave his office with that hypnotic sway of her hips. When the door closed behind her, he exhaled slowly and adjusted himself, feeling the undeniable evidence of his desire straining against his zipper. 5 years of absolutely nothing, and now he was half-hard from a fully clothed conversation with his secretary. Maya Okonkwo was going to absolutely destroy him. He just hoped he survived it. The warehouse reeked of rust and bad intentions. Maya followed Jin through the shadows, her footsteps echoing despite her attempts at stealth. She'd compromised on the shoe situation, wearing low boots that were stylish but practical, paired with black pants and a fitted jacket that concealed her weapon. Jin walked ahead like he owned the darkness itself. All black tonight, no tie. Jacket unbuttoned for easy access to the gun at his shoulder. He looked lethal. Dangerous. Impossibly attractive. Maya had spent 6 months telling herself this attraction was pointless. Jin Park was her boss, a literal mafia king, completely out of her league. He'd never shown interest beyond professional appreciation, never touched her inappropriately, never even flirted. But she felt his eyes on her constantly. Noticed how his jaw clenched when other men spoke to her. Saw the way his hands fisted when she got too close. There was something there. Something dark and desperate and denied. Tonight, in these shadows, she wondered what would happen if they stopped denying it. "This doesn't feel right," Maya whispered, moving closer to Jin's back. "It never does." His hand moved to the gun beneath his jacket, a practiced gesture that spoke of years navigating danger. "Stay close to me." They entered the main space, empty, completely, suspiciously empty. The area was massive, lined with old shipping containers and forgotten equipment. Overhead lights flickered with an ominous blue glow, casting strange shadows across concrete. No Lee, no guards, nothing but silence and the distinct feeling of being watched. Jin's entire body went rigid. "It's a trap." The words barely left his mouth before the door slammed shut behind them. Heavy steel, reinforced and industrial. Multiple locks clicked into place with electronic finality. Then came laughter. Lee's voice crackling through hidden speakers like nails on a chalkboard. "Jin Park, the impotent king. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? 5 years without touching a woman. 5 years of weakness disguised as power." Maya's sharp intake of breath told Jin she was processing, calculating, understanding. He didn't look at her. Couldn't. Humiliation burned through him like acid. "Your empire ends tonight," Lee continued, voice dripping with malice. "The room will flood with gas in 12 hours. Die together, Jin. You and your pretty little secretary. I wonder if she knows she works for a broken man who can't even satisfy her properly." Laughter echoed through the speakers, then cut off abruptly. Silence crashed down like a guillotine. Jin stood frozen, every muscle locked. 5 years of carefully guarded secrets exposed in seconds. His deepest shame broadcast to the one person whose opinion actually mattered. "Jin." Maya's voice was soft. "Careful. Don't." He moved to the door, testing it with rough hands. Reinforced steel, electronically locked from the outside. No give. No weak points visible. He pulled out his phone. No signal. The walls were lined with some kind of jamming material. A complete Faraday cage designed to cut them off entirely. "We need to... I know what we need to do." His voice came out harsher than intended. "Find an exit before the gas kills us both." He couldn't look at her. Couldn't bear to see pity or disgust or confirmation of what she must be thinking. That he was exactly what Lee said. Broken. Weak. Impotent. Behind him, Maya was silent for a long moment. Then quietly, "Are you... Am I... What?" He tested the door handle again, yanking hard enough to hurt his palm. "Impotent." She said it clinically, like a medical diagnosis rather than an insult. "Is that why you've never... Why you don't... Does it matter?" Jin's hands pressed against the steel, his forehead following. "We have 12 hours to escape or we die. My sexual dysfunction seems significantly less important than survival right now. It matters because I've spent 6 months thinking you didn't notice me, that I was completely invisible to you." She laughed, sharp and broken. "But you weren't ignoring me. You couldn't." Something in Jin's chest cracked wide open. He turned slowly, finally meeting her eyes. Maya stood in the center of the warehouse, arms wrapped around herself defensively, looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite decipher. Not pity, not disgust, something else entirely. "I notice you," he said, voice low and dangerous. "Every single day." "Then why?" "Because I'm broken, Maya." The admission tore out of him like shrapnel. The explosion took more than lives. It took everything. I haven't been able to... He gestured vaguely, unable to say the words out loud. 5 years. Nothing. No desire, no function, no hope of recovery. Doctors said it was psychological trauma. But that doesn't make it any less real. Until, she prompted, taking a step closer. What? You said haven't been able to. Past tense. Another step. Has something changed? Jin's throat tightened. You changed everything. The first hour, they searched for exits in tense silence. Maya's fingers traced walls, tested panels, examined ventilation shafts that were far too small to crawl through. Dante watched her move, graceful and desperate, and felt that impossible heat building inside him. His body was waking up after years of nothing, and it had chosen now, locked in a death trap with the one woman he couldn't have, to come roaring back to life. Every time Maya stretched to reach a high panel, her jacket rode up to expose a sliver of dark skin at her waist. Every time she bent to examine the floor, her pants pulled tight across curves that made his mouth go dry. Jin's hands ached to touch. His body responded in ways it hadn't in 5 years, pressing uncomfortably against his zipper. He was dying of arousal in a room literally designed to kill them. The irony wasn't lost on him. There has to be something, Maya muttered, running her hands along the doorframe. Her nails scraped against metal, searching desperately for weaknesses. A release mechanism? Emergency exit? Fire codes require? We're in an abandoned warehouse in the criminal district, Jin interrupted sharply. Fire codes don't apply here. So we just wait to die? She spun to face him, eyes blazing with fear and fury. That's your plan? The great Jin Park just gives up? I don't have a backup plan for this. He snapped back, frustration and fear making him sharp. My men don't know where we are. Even if they track my last location, breaking through that door will take hours we don't have. The gas will kill us before rescue arrives. Maya's shoulders sagged. For the first time since he'd known her, she looked defeated. Her hands dropped to her sides, and she blinked rapidly like she was fighting tears. Something primal roared to life in Jin's chest. The need to protect, to fix, to save her. This was his fault. His enemy. His weakness that got them trapped here. And she was paying the price for his failures. We're not dying tonight, he said, the words a vow. Each syllable carried the weight of absolute certainty. I won't let that happen to you. How? Maya whispered, looking at him with eyes full of fear and fading hope. How can you possibly promise that? Jin crossed the space between them in 3 strides. He didn't touch her, didn't trust himself to, but stood close enough to feel her warmth, to smell her perfume mixed with fear sweat. Close enough that if he leaned forward even slightly, he could kiss her. Because you're mine to protect, he said, voice rough with emotion he'd suppressed for 6 months. And I don't fail at protecting what's mine. Maya's breath hitched. I'm not yours. Aren't you? His eyes traced her face, the curve of her cheek, the fullness of her lips, the intelligence burning in her dark eyes. I've been yours since the moment you walked into my office. You just didn't know it yet. The second hour brought desperate attempts at escape. Jin tried forcing the door, ramming it with his shoulder until pain radiated through his entire body. He shot the electronic lock with 5 bullets that ricocheted dangerously in the enclosed space. He tried prying at panels, searching for ventilation access, looking for any structural weakness whatsoever. Nothing worked. The room was designed perfectly. A cage with absolutely no exit. His knuckles bled from scraping against unforgiving metal. His jacket was discarded somewhere behind him, shirt sleeves rolled up, collar damp with sweat. Maya watched him destroy himself trying to save them both, and something in her heart cracked wide open. This wasn't the cold mafia boss everyone feared. This was a man terrified of losing someone he cared about. Someone he couldn't save despite all his power and resources. Jin, stop. She grabbed his arm as he prepared to ram the door again. You're hurting yourself. I don't care. His eyes were wild, barely controlled. I won't let you die because of me. This is my fault. My enemy, my war, my weakness brought you here. You shouldn't be in this position. But I am here. Her hand stayed on his arm, fingers gentle against bloodied knuckles and tense muscle. And I'm not afraid of you. You should be. He looked at where she touched him like it burned, like her fingers against his skin were more dangerous than any weapon. You have absolutely no idea what you do to me, Maya. She swallowed hard. She could feel his pulse racing beneath her fingers. Could see the tension in every line of his body. Could sense the barely leashed control threatening to snap completely. So show me, she whispered, the words tumbling out before common sense could intervene. If we're dying here anyway, show me what I do to you. Jin's control shattered like glass. His hand came up to cup her face, large and calloused and trembling slightly. His thumb brushed her full bottom lip, tracing the curve with reverent pressure. I don't know if I can stop, he said, voice raw with brutal honesty. If I touch you the way I want to, really touch you, I don't know if I'll be able to let go. Then don't. Maya leaned into his palm, her body making the decision her mind was too afraid to make. Don't let go. Don't hold back anymore. Just be with me while we still can. Later, they would disagree about who moved first. Jin would swear she rose on her toes, closing the distance between them with intention. Maya would insist he pulled her forward, eliminating space and doubt in one decisive motion. The truth was simpler than either version. Gravity. Two bodies in orbit finally colliding after 6 months of resistance. The kiss was absolutely devastating. 5 years of numbness exploding into pure sensation. Jin's hands tangled in Maya's braids, pulling her closer as he tilted her head back, deepening the kiss with a desperation that bordered on violence. She tasted like coffee and mint, and something uniquely her. Something he'd been craving without even knowing it existed. Maya gasped against his mouth, and he swallowed the sound greedily. Her curves pressed against him, soft where he was hard, yielding where he demanded. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him even closer despite there being no space left between them. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Jin rested his forehead against hers, hands still tangled in her hair, holding her like she might disappear if he loosened his grip even slightly. Jin, don't apologize, she gasped, breath coming in short bursts. Don't you dare apologize for that. I was going to say, he murmured against her lips, voice rough and wondering, that everything works now. Everything. Her laugh was breathless, almost giddy. She could feel the evidence of his desire pressed against her hip. Impossible to miss. Impossible to deny. 5 years of nothing. And now he was achingly hard just from kissing her. From finally touching what he'd wanted for 6 agonizing months. The next kiss was slower, deeper. Jin mapped her mouth like a man memorizing sacred text. His hands traced her waist, her hips, learning the curve of her body through layers of fabric that suddenly felt like far too much. Maya's fingers found the buttons of his shirt, and he didn't stop her. Didn't want to stop her. Are you sure? He asked, even as his body screamed for her, even as his hand slipped beneath her jacket to find bare skin. We don't have to. Are you? She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Hers were dark with desire and fear and fierce determination. Are you sure you want this? Want me? His answer was to lift her, her legs wrapping around his waist as he pressed her against the wall. The same wall they'd been trapped against, now witness to something entirely different. More sure than I've been about anything in 5 years, he said against her throat, kissing the pulse point that fluttered wildly beneath his lips. Maya's head fell back, giving him access, her hands buried in his hair, holding him to her as he kissed down her neck, her collarbone, the hollow of her throat. Each kiss was a claim, a promise, a prayer. Then don't stop, she whispered. Whatever happens after this, just don't stop now. What happened next was shadow and sensation. whispered names and tangled limbs. He worshipped her like a man possessed, exploring every curve with hands and mouth and words he'd never said to anyone before. His jacket became a makeshift bed on cold concrete. Her clothes became obstacles, overcome with trembling fingers and desperate need. "You're beautiful," he breathed against her skin, mapping her body with reverent kisses. "So goddamn beautiful, Maya." She'd spent a lifetime hearing she was too curvy, too much, not the right shape for conventional beauty standards. But under Jin's hands, his eyes, his mouth, she felt like art. Like something precious finally recognized and valued. "Jin, please." "I know." He moved over her, between her, fitting together like they were designed specifically for this moment. "I know, sweetheart. I've got you." When he finally entered her, they both gasped. Maya at the fullness, the perfect stretch, the feeling of being completely claimed. Jin at the heat, the tightness, the overwhelming sensation of being inside her after 5 years of feeling absolutely nothing. "Are you okay?" His voice shook with the effort of holding still, letting her adjust to him. "Am I hurting you?" "No." Her hands framed his face, bringing him down for a kiss. "You're perfect. This is perfect." He started to move. Slow at first, gentle, learning what made her gasp and arch and whisper his name like a prayer. Then faster as control slipped, as desperation built, as pleasure coiled tighter and tighter between them. Maya broke first, crying out his name as she shattered completely. Jin followed seconds later, burying his face in her neck and holding her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. Afterwards, they lay tangled on his discarded jacket, bodies cooling and hearts gradually slowing. Maya's head rested on his chest, her hand over his racing heart. Jin's arms wrapped around her like shackles he never wanted to remove. "I didn't know it could be like that," Maya whispered against his skin. Jin's arms tightened possessively. "Neither did I." His hand traced idle patterns on her bare shoulder, mindless, soothing, claiming. "I thought I'd never feel this again. Never want anyone. Never be capable of this kind of connection." "But you did." She pressed a kiss over his heart. "You are. With you." He tilted her face up, needing her to see the truth burning in his eyes. "Only with you, Maya. You brought me back to life." The 4th hour brought reality crashing back with brutal force. Maya stirred in Jin's arms, reaching for her scattered clothes, and panic flooded his chest like ice water. She was leaving. Women always left after getting what they wanted. She'd probably planned this whole thing. Seduced the broken mafia boss, collected her pity prize, and now she'd pull away. Worse, she'd probably quit entirely. Disappear from his life. He'd never see her again except in memories that would torture him forever. "Where are you going?" His voice came out harsh, sharp enough to draw blood. Maya paused, pulling her jacket on over her bare shoulders. She'd only found half her clothes so far in the darkness. "Just getting dressed. The gas. We should probably still try to—" "Right, the gas." Jin sat up suddenly, feeling cold despite the warmth of what they'd just shared. He'd been stupid, vulnerable. Everything his father had warned him against his entire life. "This was a mistake," he said flatly. He felt, rather than saw, her freeze completely. The temperature in the room dropped 30 degrees. "A mistake?" "I shouldn't have touched you." The words tasted like ash and battery acid, but he forced them out anyway. Better to push her away before she abandoned him. Better to hurt her first before she could devastate him completely. "You're my secretary. This was unprofessional. Inappropriate." "Unprofessional." Her voice was flat. Too flat. Dangerously flat. "That's what you call what just happened between us? What did you expect me to call it? A miracle?" He laughed, bitter and sharp enough to draw blood. "You felt sorry for me. The impotent mafia boss who couldn't perform for 5 years. Must have been quite the charity case for you. Let's see if we can fix him before we die." The slap came so fast he didn't see it coming. His head snapped to the side, cheek stinging, the sound echoing off steel walls like a gunshot. "How dare you?" Maya's voice shook with pure, righteous fury. "How dare you cheapen what we just shared? Cheapen me like that?" Maya. No. She grabbed her remaining clothes, yanking them on with sharp, angry movements. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to make me feel like trash just because you're terrified of being vulnerable. Because you're so scared I'll reject you that you're rejecting me first." Jin opened his mouth, closed it. She'd seen right through him, straight to the fear he'd been desperately hiding. "We still have 8 hours before the gas," Maya said, her voice cold enough to rival his worst reputation. "I'll be over there in that corner. Don't talk to me, don't look at me, and don't you dare touch me again." She moved to the far corner of the warehouse and sat with her back to him, spine rigid with hurt and anger. Jin watched her shoulders shake, whether from tears or rage he couldn't tell, and hated himself more than he'd ever hated anyone in his entire life. He'd finally felt something again, finally connected with another human being on a fundamental level, finally experienced desire and pleasure and genuine vulnerability, and he'd destroyed it in seconds because he was too much of a coward to risk his heart. The 5th hour passed in agonizing silence that felt like torture. Jin tried 3 more times to breach the door, failed each time, bloodying his hands further, accomplishing nothing except proving his complete powerlessness. He could feel Maya watching him from across the room, but every time he glanced her way, she deliberately looked away. The rejection stung worse than any physical pain he'd ever experienced. "I'm sorry," he finally said, voice rough from disuse and emotion. Silence. "Maya, please. I'm genuinely sorry." "For what?" She didn't turn around. "For sleeping with me or for insulting me after?" "For being a coward." The admission cost him everything, every shred of pride, every carefully constructed wall. I thought you'd regret it. Regret me, so I hurt you first before you could hurt me worse." More silence. Then quietly, "You're an idiot." "I know." "A complete and total idiot." "I know that too." He moved closer, sitting against the wall near her but not touching. Close enough to reach if she'd let him. "I'm sorry, Maya, for all of it. You deserved so much better than that treatment." She finally turned to face him, and the pain in her eyes absolutely gutted him. "Did it occur to you that I've wanted you since my 2nd week working for you? That I stayed in that impossible job despite you being infuriating and controlling and impossible because I couldn't stand the thought of leaving? Of not seeing you every day?" "No," he admitted quietly. "I honestly thought you just needed the paycheck. I make good money, Jin. I could work literally anywhere in this city." She wrapped her arms around her knees defensively. "I stayed because underneath that Ice King act everyone fears, I saw who you really are. Protective, loyal, devastatingly lonely. And I thought maybe, just maybe, you saw me too." "I do see you." His hand moved toward hers, hovering inches away, asking silent permission. "You're the only thing I've seen clearly in 5 years." Maya looked at his offered hand for a long moment. Then slowly, she took it. Their fingers laced together, and Jin felt like he could breathe properly again. "Don't do that again," she said quietly but firmly. "Don't push me away just because you're scared of feeling something real. I can handle a lot of things, Jin, but I can't handle being treated like I don't matter to you. You matter." He brought their joined hands to his lips, kissing her knuckles with reverence. "You matter more than anything else in my life. That's exactly what terrifies me so much." In the 6th hour, they talked. Really, genuinely talked. Not as boss and secretary, not as captor and captive, but as 2 people facing death together and choosing radical honesty over protective pride. Maya told him about growing up in Lagos with 2 brothers who'd all inherited their father's lean build, while she'd gotten curves from her mother's side. About the comments from relatives, the unsolicited diet advice, the boys who wanted to sleep with her but never date her publicly. About putting herself through university while working 3 jobs because her parents couldn't afford to send all 3 children abroad for education. About the string of men who'd wanted to change her body, her confidence, her very existence instead of simply appreciating what she offered. I learned early that men either fetishize curves or despise them, she said quietly, staring at their joined hands. There's rarely any middle ground for women who look like me. Jin listened, rage building steadily in his chest for every single person who'd ever made her feel less than extraordinary. I don't want to change anything about you, he said roughly, voice thick with emotion. You're absolutely perfect exactly as you are. Even though I'm not model thin? Especially because you're not. His free hand moved to her waist, spanning her curves with obvious appreciation. You're real, soft, feminine. Everything that's supposed to be attractive about women. Society's current beauty standards are absolutely insane. Maya smiled slightly. Small, but genuine. You're biased. Doesn't make me wrong. He pulled her closer, needing the contact like oxygen. Tell me about them, the men who didn't deserve you. So she did. The college boyfriend who'd asked her to lose weight before meeting his family. The coworker who'd said she'd be perfect if she'd just toned down her body. The string of first dates that never became second dates because she wasn't the right shape for their narrow preferences. With each story, Jin's fury grew exponentially. These men had been given access to something precious and irreplaceable, and they'd squandered it. Rejected a gift they should have treasured with everything they had. Their loss, he said finally, voice tight with barely controlled anger. My gain. Are you sure? Maya asked, vulnerability breaking through her usual confidence. Because you were so quick to throw this away earlier, to push me away like I meant nothing. Because I'm terrified, he admitted with brutal honesty. I told you about the accident, the explosion, but I didn't tell you everything about it. Tell me now, please. So he did. Jin told her about his father's empire built on blood and calculated fear. About growing up knowing death was always lurking close by. About being groomed from childhood to take over the family, business. To be harder, colder, more ruthless than any competitor. About the crushing pressure to be perfect. To never show weakness or vulnerability. To view emotions as fatal liabilities rather than human strengths. My father taught me that love is weakness, Jin said, voice hollow with old pain that had never properly healed. That caring about someone gives enemies an easy target to exploit. He beat that lesson into me repeatedly until I believed it completely. Maya's hand tightened in his. That's abuse, Jin. That's family tradition. He laughed bitterly, the sound sharp and broken. For 3 generations, Park men have ruled without love, without softness, without anything that could be weaponized against them. My grandfather died completely alone. My father died alone. I assumed I'd die alone too. Until the explosion. The explosion just accelerated things, I suppose. He stared at their joined hands like they were his only anchor. I was engaged once, before the accident happened. Arranged marriage, good family connections, useful business alliance. She was beautiful, intelligent, appropriate for my position. I felt absolutely nothing for her except mild professional respect. What happened to her? She was in the car that exploded. Jin's voice went completely flat, emotionless, the tone he used when discussing business casualties. She died instantly. My driver died instantly. My second-in-command died in the hospital 2 days later after extensive suffering. I survived with minor physical injuries and major psychological damage that doctors couldn't fix. Maya gasped softly. Jin? I don't mourn her, he continued, the confession clearly costing him. That's the worst part of everything. I should mourn my fiancé, but I felt absolutely nothing when she died. No grief, no devastating loss, just relief that I hadn't loved her, that her death didn't actually hurt beyond abstract regret and guilt. That's survivor's guilt, Maya said gently, squeezing his hand. Not coldness or lack of humanity. Maybe. He met her eyes finally. But for 5 years after that explosion, I felt nothing at all. No desire, no arousal, no attraction to anyone who crossed my path. Doctors said it was psychological trauma. My body shutting down completely because I'd associated sex and intimacy with death and loss. They gave me medications, endless therapy sessions, all kinds of advice. Nothing worked at all. Until me, Maya whispered. Until you. His thumb stroked her palm with tender reverence. You walked into my office and something dormant just woke up. Something I genuinely thought was dead forever. I wanted you so badly it physically hurt. Wanted to touch you, taste you, make you mine in every possible way. But I was terrified. Of what, exactly? Everything. He pulled her closer, needing her near. What if I tried and couldn't perform? What if my body responded but my heart stayed completely dead inside? What if I hurt you somehow? What if you became a target because of me and paid the price for my weakness? All valid fears, Maya acknowledged softly. But fear isn't a good enough reason to live half a life, Jin. I know that now. He kissed her temple with aching tenderness. Being locked in here, facing death together, having you for even one moment, it made me realize that existing without feeling isn't actually living. It's just waiting to die. They sat in companionable silence, processing confessions and pain and unexpected hope. Then Maya asked quietly, "If we get out of here, when we get out, what happens to us?" Jin turned to face her fully, cupping her face with both hands like she was made of something precious and breakable. "I court you properly. Dinners at nice restaurants, flowers, all the things I should have done before trapping you in a warehouse and taking you against a wall." She laughed, the sound like sunlight cutting through oppressive darkness. "What if I actually like the warehouse part? Then I'll lock us in my penthouse instead." His forehead pressed to hers, but with significantly better amenities and absolutely no death threats, and all the time in the world to worship you the way you genuinely deserve. "Deal." She kissed him softly, sweetly. "But I have conditions. Anything you want. No more walls between us. No more pushing me away when you're scared or overwhelmed." Her hands framed his face firmly. "And you have to tell me when you're feeling broken or terrified. I can't help if I don't know what you're going through." Agreed completely. He kissed her again, deeper this time. "Anything else?" "Yes." Her smile turned wicked and playful. "When we get out of here, you're taking me to the most expensive restaurant in Seoul. I want to be properly wined and dined before you lock me in your penthouse. It's a date." The 7th hour brought an unexpected miracle. Jin's phone suddenly buzzed insistently in his pocket. Once, twice, persistently demanding attention. He pulled it out, completely stunned. 1 bar of signal, weak and flickering, but definitely there. "How is that possible?" Maya started. "Must be a weak spot in the Faraday cage construction." Jin was already dialing with trembling fingers. Minho, his second in command, answered on the first ring. "Boss, we've been searching everywhere for you. Where the hell are you?" "Warehouse District, Building 17. Steel-reinforced room, electronically locked from outside." Jin's voice was clipped, efficient, years of command making him calm under extreme pressure. "Lee betrayed us. We're trapped inside. We're 20 minutes away maximum. Can you hold out?" Jin looked at Maya. Disheveled, beautiful, absolutely his. "We'll be here waiting. But Minho, when you extract us, I want Lee found and brought to me alive. I'm handling this betrayal personally." "Yes, boss. 20 minutes. The call ended abruptly. Jin immediately tried calling. Again, but the signal had vanished completely. Just that brief, miraculous window of opportunity. But it was enough. Maya threw her arms around his neck with relieved force. "We're going to make it. We're actually going to make it out of here." "We're going to make it," he repeated, holding her tight enough to leave marks. Then quieter, his voice dropping into something cold and absolutely lethal. "But Lee definitely won't survive this." She pulled back enough to see his face properly. The Ice King had returned with brutal finality. Cold, calculated, utterly ruthless without mercy. This was the man who ruled Seoul's underworld with calculated fear. The man who'd built an empire on blood and bodies. "He tried to kill you," Jin said, each word precise and deliberate like a blade. "He trapped you here, threatened you, put you through hours of absolute terror. That requires very specific payment. Jin, I won't apologize for this." His eyes met hers, letting her see the monster lurking beneath the man she'd made love to. "I protect what's mine with everything I have. And anyone who threatens you dies painfully. That's not negotiable under any circumstances." Maya should have been afraid, should have been horrified by the casual promise of brutal violence. Instead, she felt safe, protected, claimed in a way that resonated deep in her bones. "Okay," she whispered against his lips. "But after you handle Lee, you come home to me. Not to the darkness you live in. To me. Always." He kissed her, sealing the promise like a blood oath. "You're my light, Maya. I'll always come home to you. Always." Minho and his team breached the door in exactly 15 minutes. They flooded in like a tactical military unit. Armed, efficient, absolutely lethal. 12 of Jin's most trusted soldiers ready for immediate war. They stopped short at the sight of their boss holding his secretary like she was made of spun glass and starlight. "Boss?" Minho said carefully, taking in Jin's completely disheveled state. Maya's obvious distress, the unmistakably intimate way they held each other. "Are you both all right?" Jin didn't let go of Maya for even a second. "Find Lee immediately. I want him alive and conscious enough to understand exactly what he did wrong." His voice could have frozen fire where it burned. "And then?" Minho asked, though he already knew the answer. "And then I teach him personally why betraying me was the absolute last mistake he'll ever make in his pathetic life." Jin's tone was arctic, emotionless. "Bring him to the container yard, the one with soundproofing." Minho's eyes widened slightly with understanding. That location was reserved for very special cases. People who needed to disappear slowly and painfully. "Yes, boss. Immediately." Jin finally released Maya, immediately shrugging out of his jacket and wrapping it around her trembling shoulders. She was shaking badly now, adrenaline crash hitting hard now that rescue had finally arrived. "Take her directly to my penthouse," Jin ordered Minho with absolute authority. "Medical team on standby, security detail tripled. No one gets anywhere near her without my explicit approval." "I'm going with you," Maya protested weakly. "No." His tone left absolutely no room for argument or negotiation. "You're going somewhere safe while I handle this business." "Jin..." He cupped her face tenderly, his kiss gentle despite the violence simmering dangerously beneath his skin. "Trust me with this, please. Let me protect you this way." Maya wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle whatever came next, but exhaustion and lingering fear won out over stubbornness. "Come home to me," she whispered against his lips like a prayer. "Always." The next day, Jin found Lee zip-tied to a chair in a shipping container exactly where Minho had promised. The man who'd tried to kill them, who'd mocked his deepest shame, who'd put Maya in mortal danger, was already bloody from Minho's initial questioning. One eye was swelling shut, blood dripped steadily from his broken nose, but he was conscious, alert, terrified, perfect. "Please," Lee begged pathetically as Jin entered, closing the container door behind him with deliberate finality. "I'll give you anything you want. Money, territory, information on the other families. There's nothing you have that I want." Jin's voice was arctic, completely emotionless, the tone of a man about to commit violence without any remorse whatsoever. "Accept your suffering." He pulled on leather gloves slowly, methodically, deliberately. The sound of leather sliding over skin was unnaturally loud in the enclosed space. Jin had learned from his father that anticipation of pain was often significantly worse than the pain itself. "Why did you do it?" Jin asked almost conversationally. "Betray me after all these years?" "The other families," Lee was babbling desperately, words tumbling over each other. "They said you were weak now, impotent, that your empire was ripe for taking if someone made the first move. They offered me significant territory if I helped remove you from power. And you believed them." Jin picked up a knife from the array of tools Minho had thoughtfully provided. "You actually believed that I, a man who's held absolute power for 10 years, was suddenly vulnerable because of a medical condition? They said they were very convincing. They were catastrophically wrong." Jin crouched directly in front of Lee, letting him see death itself reflected in his eyes. "I'm not weak. I'm not impotent anymore. And I'm certainly not someone you betray without facing severe consequences." What happened next took several hours. Jin was methodical, precise, utterly remorseless in his work. He didn't kill Lee. That would have been undeserved mercy. Instead, he broke him systematically. Physically, psychologically, spiritually, until there was nothing left but a shell. He made absolutely sure Lee understood exactly what he'd tried to destroy. Not just a mafia boss with power, but a man who'd finally found something genuinely worth living for. "You threatened her," Jin said quietly, his blade tracing patterns on Lee's skin that would scar permanently. "The woman I love more than anything. That was your real fatal mistake here." By the time Jin emerged from the container hours later, his hands were covered in blood, and his eyes were utterly cold. Lee would live, broken, destroyed, but alive enough to spread the word throughout Seoul's underworld. Jin Park wasn't weak at all. He was absolutely lethal, and anyone who threatened what was his would beg for death long before it finally came. Minho waited outside with fresh clothes and wet wipes for cleanup. "Is he alive?" Minho asked carefully. "Barely breathing." Jin cleaned the blood from his hands with mechanical efficiency. "Make sure he's seen publicly. Make sure everyone in Seoul's entire underworld knows exactly what happens to traitors who target what's mine." "Yes, boss." Minho hesitated briefly. "She's waiting for you at the penthouse. Refused to sleep until you returned safely to her." Something in Jin's chest loosened considerably. Maya. His light. His reason for returning from the darkness he inhabited. He changed quickly, stuffing his blood-stained clothes into a bag for immediate burning. When he finally looked human again, expensive suit, clean hands, cold eyes warming slightly, he headed home to her. Jin found Maya curled on his penthouse sofa, wearing one of his oversized shirts and fighting sleep with obvious determination. She jolted awake at the sound of the door, eyes immediately searching him frantically for injuries. "You're okay," she breathed with profound relief, crossing the space between them in seconds. "You're actually okay." "I'm fine, sweetheart." He caught her easily, pulling her close and breathing in her scent like salvation. Jasmine and safety, and home. "Sorry I took so long with everything." "Is it handled? Is Lee—" "It's over completely." Jin wouldn't elaborate, didn't want to bring that particular darkness into her presence. "You're safe now. That's all that matters to me." Maya pulled back enough to study his face carefully. Whatever she saw there, residual violence, bone-deep exhaustion, desperate need for her specifically, made her expression soften with understanding. She took his hand, leading him firmly toward the bedroom. Their bedroom now, he supposed. "Come on," she said gently, voice full of love. "You need rest after everything." "I need you," he admitted, the confession raw and honest. "After all that darkness I just waded through, I need your light desperately." So she gave it to him without hesitation. She undressed him carefully, reverently, kissing each revealed inch of skin with tender devotion. She drew him a hot bath and washed him gently, Soothing muscles still tight with violence, she dried him like he was precious, and led him to bed, and held him while he trembled with delayed reaction to everything. "I'm here," she whispered against his hair like a promise. "You came home to me, exactly like you promised you would." Jin clung to her desperately. This woman who'd given him back his life, his desire, his capacity for hope and love. "I love you," he said quietly into the darkness. "I know it's probably too soon, and we barely survived death together. This is probably just trauma bonding, but I love you, Maya. I need you to know that." "I love you too," she whispered back without hesitation. "And it's not too soon at all. It's exactly the right time for us." They made love slowly, gently, healing the violence of the day with deliberate tenderness and care. Afterwards, Maya curled against his chest, tracing the scars from his accident with gentle fingers. "These don't make you broken," she whispered with conviction. "They make you a survivor, Jin." He caught her hand, pressing it firmly over his heart. "You make me whole again." The following week, Maya moved into his penthouse officially. Not because she had to, but because neither of them could stand being apart anymore. Her belongings mixed seamlessly with his. Colorful pillows on his stark furniture, her books on his minimalist shelves, her laughter filling his previously empty spaces. Whispers spread rapidly through Seoul's underworld by week's end. Jin Park had a woman now. A beautiful, curvy African woman who made the legendary Ice King actually smile. Who sat in on strategy meetings and wasn't remotely afraid to argue with him. Who wore his protection like a crown and his love like impenetrable armor. Some called it weakness. Most called it dangerous evolution. The smart ones called it terrifying. They were all correct. A few days later, Maya was grocery shopping, escorted by 2 of Jin's guards despite her vocal protests, when the van pulled up aggressively. 3 men, Lee's remaining crew members, out for revenge against the man who'd destroyed their boss so thoroughly. They couldn't get to Jin directly, so they targeted his obvious weakness instead. Her. They grabbed her brutally in the parking lot, hand clamped over her mouth, dragging her toward the vehicle before her guards could react properly. One guard went down with a bullet to the leg. The other dove for cover, immediately calling for backup while returning fire desperately. But they were too fast, too prepared, too determined. They threw Maya into the van roughly and peeled out, leaving chaos and blood in their wake. Maya fought viciously, knees, elbows, teeth, every self-defense technique Jin had insisted she learn. She drew blood, broke at least one nose, nearly escaped twice. But there were too many of them. They zip-tied her wrists painfully tight and threw a bag over her head, cutting off her vision entirely. "Jin will kill you for this," she hissed, voice muffled by fabric. "He'll kill all of you slowly." "That's exactly what we're counting on." The voice was cold, calculated, full of hatred. "He took our boss from us. We take his woman. Seems fair." Maya would have pointed out the sexist terminology, but survival instincts kicked in hard. She needed to stay alert, remember directions, listen for any clues about their location. She needed to survive long enough for Jin to find her. And he would find her. She had absolutely no doubt about that. Jin was in a tense meeting when Minho burst in without knocking, a cardinal sin that immediately told him something was catastrophically wrong. "Boss." Minho's face was pale. "Maya's been taken." The room temperature dropped 30 degrees instantly. Jin stood slowly, every muscle coiling for imminent violence. His expression didn't change at all, but everyone present felt the shift from human to apex predator. "Explain, now." Grocery store parking lot, 3 men, professional grab and go. They shot Taman, he'll survive. Took her in a van. Store cameras caught the plates. We're running them now. "Find her." 2 words. Quiet, deadly, world-ending. "We're working on... Find her." Jin's voice rose for the first time in years. Actual volume. actual raw emotion breaking through iron control. Mobilize everyone we have. Tap every source. Burn every favor owed to us. I want her location in 1 hour, or I start burning this entire city down block by block until someone talks. The room emptied in terrified seconds. Jin stood alone, hands pressed against his desk, breathing deliberately. In and out. In and out. Controlling the fear that threatened to consume him whole. They had Maya. His light, his heart, his entire world. And she was in danger because of him. Boss, Minho reappeared. If they hurt her? There won't be enough pieces left to identify. Jin interrupted, voice gone flat and deadly serious. No mercy. No quick deaths. I want them to suffer in ways they can't even imagine. Understood completely. Minho had never seen his boss like this before. Wild-eyed, barely leashed, one step from complete breakdown. We'll find her, boss. We better. Jin grabbed his jacket, checking his weapons with mechanical precision. Because if we don't, this entire city burns to ash. They found her in 47 minutes, an abandoned building across the Han River. Old, decrepit, perfect for hiding someone temporarily. Lee's crew had been sloppy in their desperation, wanting revenge more than careful planning. It would be their absolute last mistake. Jin arrived with 20 of his best men, armed to the teeth and ready for total war. He didn't bother with strategy or stealth or negotiation. He walked through the front door and started shooting immediately. Bodies dropped like puppets with cut strings, blood-painted walls in arterial sprays. Jin moved like death itself incarnate, precise, unstoppable, absolutely merciless. Every shot found its target. Every movement served a lethal purpose. He was a force of nature, and these men had made the fatal error of thinking they could threaten what was his. The first man went down with a bullet directly between his eyes. The second lost his kneecap before Jin put one through his skull. The third tried to run and made it exactly 3 steps before a bullet dropped him permanently. Jin barely registered their deaths. His entire focus was on finding Maya alive. He found her in a back room, tied to a chair, bag over her head, trembling but breathing. Alive. She was alive. Maya. Her name came out like a desperate prayer. He cut her loose with shaking hands, pulled the bag off gently, and she collapsed into his arms with a sob. You came, she cried against his chest. I knew you would, but I was so scared. Always. His hands checked her frantically for injuries, gentle despite the violence he'd just committed. Did they hurt you? Tell me the truth. Just scared me. She was trembling hard, shock setting in. I knew you'd come, but I was terrified anyway. I'm here now. He lifted her easily, carrying her toward the exit like she weighed absolutely nothing. I've got you. You're completely safe now. Behind them, the building began to smoke ominously. Minho had set charges. Evidence and bodies would disappear entirely. Clean, efficient, completely untraceable. Jin carried Maya through blood and carnage without letting her see any of it. She buried her face in his neck, trusting him completely to get her home. I love you, he whispered fiercely against her hair. I will always come for you. Always. No matter what happens. You're mine to protect, and I will burn this entire world down before I let anyone take you from me again. The next morning, Maya woke in Jin's bed, wrapped securely in his arms and safety. He hadn't slept at all, just watched her breathe, terrified to look away in case she somehow disappeared. I'm okay, she whispered, seeing the haunted look in his eyes. I promise I'm okay. You're not leaving my sight again. His grip tightened possessively. Move in with me officially and permanently. Let me keep you safe properly. I already live here practically. Then marry me. The words tumbled out before he could stop them. Not someday or eventually. Now. This week, tomorrow, if legally possible. I need you to be mine officially, permanently, in every way that matters. Maya pulled back enough to see his face properly. He looked terrified, desperate, completely undone. "Jin, please." The word cost him everything he had. "I can't lose you. I won't lose you. If you're my wife, I can protect you better. No one will dare touch Mrs. Park." "Is that the only reason? Protection?" "No." He cupped her face with both hands like she was made of something precious. "I want you to be mine in every possible way. I want to wake up to you every morning. I want your name next to mine legally. I want everyone to know you chose me and I chose you and we're forever." Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks freely. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes. I'll marry you." She kissed him through tears and laughter. "This week, tomorrow, whenever you want. Yes." The tension left Jin's body in a rush. He kissed her soft, reverent, grateful, and held her like she was the most precious thing in existence. Because she absolutely was. That evening, Jin called an unprecedented meeting of Seoul's major families. Every boss, every lieutenant, every significant player in the criminal game gathered in his compound, wary and intensely curious. Jin stood before them with Maya at his side, his hand clasped firmly in hers. She wore a simple black dress that hugged her curves perfectly, and his ring, a massive diamond that caught light with every movement. "This is Maya Okonkwo," Jin announced to the assembled crowd with absolute authority. "My fiancée, my future wife, my everything." He let the words sink in before continuing. "Anyone who threatens her threatens me directly. Anyone who harms her dies slowly, painfully, and very publicly. This is not negotiable. This is law." The room was absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. "She is under Park family protection now," Jin continued, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "That means she is completely untouchable. Anyone who forgets this, anyone who thinks they can use her to get to me, will learn exactly why my family has ruled this city for 3 generations." One by one, heads nodded. Acceptance, respect, fear. Maya squeezed his hand, grounding him. She hadn't asked for this public claiming, but she understood what it meant in his world. In Jin's world, love was protection, and protection was power. 3 days later, they married in his mother's garden. Small ceremony, intimate, family and trusted friends only. Maya wore ivory silk that celebrated every curve, custom-made to honor rather than hide her body. Jin wore traditional Korean hanbok, and he couldn't stop staring at his bride like she was a miracle walking toward him. "You're staring," she whispered when she reached him at the altar. "I'm memorizing," he whispered back, eyes never leaving her face. "Every second, every detail. I never want to forget how you look right now." When they exchanged vows, both voices shook with genuine emotion. "I promise to love you through darkness and light," Jin said, voice carrying across the garden. "To protect you without suffocating you. To trust you with my heart, even though it terrifies me. To come home to you after every battle. To choose you every single day for the rest of my life." "I promise to see you," Maya responded, tears streaming freely. Not the mafia boss or the ice king everyone fears, but the man beneath. To call you on your controlling tendencies when needed. To be your light when darkness calls. To love you fiercely, argue with you passionately, and stand beside you through absolutely everything. Always. When they kissed as husband and wife, applause erupted from everyone present. The Ice King had melted completely, and everyone could see it. 5 months later, Maya stood in their bathroom, staring at a positive pregnancy test with terror and joy swirling in her chest. They hadn't planned this, hadn't discussed timelines or expectations. What if Jin wasn't ready? What if his dangerous world was too much for a child? She found him in his office reviewing shipping manifests like always. He looked up at her entrance and his expression immediately shifted to concern. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Maybe, I don't know. She thrust the test at him, unable to form coherent sentences. Surprise? Jin stared at the little plastic stick with 2 pink lines. His face went through a series of expressions. Shock, confusion, dawning realization, pure wonder. His hand reached out slowly, hovering over her still flat belly like he was afraid to touch and break the spell. "You're pregnant?" he said, voice filled with awe. "Yes." "With my child?" "Generally how it works, yes. We're having a baby." His voice cracked on the last word, eyes filling with tears she'd never seen before. Then he was pulling her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. "We're having a baby," he repeated like a mantra. "Oh my God, Maya, we're actually having a baby." "You're happy?" She pulled back to see his face, needing to read his expression clearly. "Happy?" He laughed, the sound rough with overwhelming emotion. "Maya, you gave me back my life. Now you're giving me a family. Happy doesn't begin to cover what I'm feeling." They named their daughter Zara Park when she arrived 7 months later, screaming her fury at the world. And Jin Park, Seoul's most feared mafia boss, wept openly as he held his tiny daughter for the first time. Years later, with Zara asleep in her heavily fortified nursery and Maya curled against his chest, Jin thought about that warehouse. The trap that was supposed to kill them both. The moment absolutely everything changed. "What are you thinking?" Maya murmured sleepily. "That I'd thank Lee if he weren't already dead and buried." Jin's hand traced lazy patterns on her shoulder. "Because he gave me you." She laughed softly. "Because he locked us in that room together?" "Because he gave me you," Jin repeated, kissing her temple. "My beautiful secretary who saved her supposedly impotent boss. You were never truly impotent, just waiting. For you, for us, for this." In the nursery, Zara stirred through the baby monitor, making soft sounds that meant she'd wake soon. In the city below, Seoul's underworld moved and shifted in patterns Jin controlled with invisible strings. But in their penthouse, wrapped in each other and the family they'd built from danger and desire, Jin and Maya had everything that truly mattered. The Ice King had melted completely. The secretary had conquered an empire, and their love, forged in danger and sealed in devotion, had proven stronger than death itself. If you love this story, besties, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another epic romance. Drop a comment telling me what kind of story you want next. And if you really want to support the channel, check out my membership program. Every bit helps me bring you more amazing content. Until next time, keep believing in love that conquers everything.